Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for this panel. My name is Océane Herrero. I'm a tech reporter for Politico and I will be your moderator today. And we will dive into the question, is there an European way to AI? We are lucky today to have a panel of government officials, starting with Niamh Smyth. You're the Minister for Trade Promotion, Artificial Intelligence and Digital Transformation. We also have Nicodemos Damianou. Hi, nice to meet you. And you're the Minister of Research, Innovation and Digital Policy for CYPRUS. Thomas Jarzombek, sorry for the name, I hope it's fine. You're the Minister of Research, Innovation and Digital Policy. You're the State Secretary of the Federal Minister for Digital Transformation and Government Modernization of Germany. And finally, Hénanff, you're the Deputy Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital for France. Thank you for being here again. There's a saying that you probably all know that says that the United States innovates, China copies, and Europe regulates. I'm not sure for the second one at the moment, but we'll have to examine if Europe can change its destiny and do more than just regulation. And also if Europe can meet the moment, first by becoming an innovative force, and second, by doing so amid an ever-growing geopolitical and trade tensions. So, dear panelists, you're all members of governments, so let me start by asking you this question, which is there still value, in your opinion, in being the regulatory force in the digital space, and especially when we talk about AI? Maybe let's start with you, Nicodemos Damianou, on this.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, first of all, and my fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, let's start with a positive note to the question of the panel. Is there a European way to AI? I think what's happening here today, 2,000 participants, is evidence to that, and I'm happy to join you. It's my first visit as Station F. So to your question about whether we should still be regulating AI the way we are, the answer is, I think, quite simple, particularly for AI. Yes, we should. But is it time for a change? Again, yes, it's time for a change, as change is happening. But let me backtrack a bit. I think one of the analogies that I like a lot in discussing these subjects is the deployment of electricity a century ago. Europe was leading in terms of patents and fundamental research, but it lacked in terms of the fact that it had national fragmentation and slow deployment of capital compared to the US, for example. This is happening again now with AI. Europe is leading with regulation. There is some very high quality research being produced, but again, national fragmentation and slow deployment of capital are very problematic, and we must fix them. Now, why did I say particularly with AI we should not stop regulating? Well, Europe has been clear from the beginning that our approach towards AI is human-centric AI, trust-based AI. So an approach where trust, responsible AI, clear accountability, man-in-the-loop approach is the way forward. And I think this should be a differentiating factor and a competitive advantage. Why? Because I think it's becoming clear in all of the discussions that the future of AI points to that direction. Whichever jurisdiction manages to build trust around this technology, safety around this technology, will have a competitive advantage. It will be preferred by citizens, by businesses, and hopefully by investors as well. I think a good example of that is a hot topic now, the protection of minors online. I cannot imagine that there is any nation in the world that is not worried. However, the discussion is largely happening in Europe right now. So everybody's worried about deepfakes, about the addictive algorithms with AI, But Europe is leading the discussion. Why? Because we are based on these principles of trust and responsibility, and we should maintain that. I'm finishing by saying again that things should change. They are changing, following especially the Draghi and Leda reports about a year and a half ago. And there's a lot that's been happening in parallel to simplification, which is the main theme of our presidency as well, in terms of competitiveness. And I think I'll stop here for now.
Thank you. Thomas Jarzombek, I believe you also have faith in simplification in a way to accelerate in AI in Europe.
Yes, absolutely. So first, a big congrats to the French friends for organizing this huge event here. It's very impressive to be here, and Station F, I think it's really a lighthouse for digital technologies and AI all over Europe. And so I'm very pleased to be here. Yeah, when it comes to AI, I think the difference to the US side is that in Europe, we focus this very much from the government side. And what you see in the US, it's the whole development came from the business side. And I think we need to focus more on this business side. I don't think that politics and governments will solve the whole problem. I mean, I agree to what you said. We need a basic regulation, that's very important. Right now, when we see DSA, it's very important to protect the minors, and also the whole debate about the minimum age for social media. I think it's the right debate and the right measures that will be upcoming. So we need a basic regulation, but in the end, AI is moving that fast forward. I could never imagine what happens in the last 3-4 months since these vibe coding tools got this new level. And right now, I don't think there is any job opportunity for programmers anymore. And so nobody could imagine this 1 year ago. Maybe some insiders, but mostly, and I think this will only be the first sector where this happens and not the last one. And so things are moving that fast. And when I look at the regulation scheme, then, I mean, last week everybody spoke about OpenClaw or Maltbot or however it's been called over these cycles. And it seems to be totally unregulated. A guy from Austria developed a software, he published it as an open source, and hundreds of thousands of people installed that on their Mac Mini or whatever for local machines. And the whole AI Act, we debated how long about that, completely mismatched to this kind of situation. And I think there are huge challenges upcoming, and we need more solutions for this. Simplification is key, so this is my last point. Simplification is key, so it's very important that with this omnibus package we show more ambition. It's quite a good path. Also what the Commission published is a good paper, but we need more ambition. That's very important, and more simplification so that more business can happen here in Europe. And more French and German cooperation on this also. And one of the previous panels, there was Hala from Herrero, and they invested in a startup from my constituency in Konichi. They made an exit with 1 billion, so it's a huge success story also, and we can make a lot of things together.
And Hénanff, do you also believe we need to go further on simplification, and what are the risks that you also identify?
Thank you very much. As Europeans, I think we can be very proud of our digital legislation because it protects our values, our consumers, and our businesses also, while helping in the same time to ensure a fair competition. We have a European market, the rules are clear, and the operators have to respect our rules. Last examples, and we can be very proud of it, and France supports a lot the Commission, the European Commission for that, the consequences for Grok, for X, or for Shin, because they didn't respect our rules. So we can be very proud of it. The AI Act established a framework of trust for the adoption of AI. So I think it's a good balance between innovation and regulation, and we fully support that. Not only innovation or not only regulation, both, of course. It's European style, if I can say. We asked for a certain delay to the implementation of of certain dispositions, because we are not totally ready for some measures in the AI Act, but we don't want to lower the ambition of the AI, but perhaps to have more times to apply some rules, some tools. We are not totally ready. So our aim is not to hinder innovation, it's to protect our citizens, and in particular our children. So your question is very, very good. It's essential. Overregulation has a cost. The Draghi report estimates that reducing such administrative burdens could unlock 200 billion euros. It's enormous. So it's essential to clarify our regulation, to support our startup and the startup development in general, and strengthen European competitiveness.
Thank you. Smyth, do you also believe that the AI Act creates confidence for the ecosystem?
Okay, firstly, if I could begin by saying good morning to you and all of your guests here today, and it's just fabulous to be here on Station F. I'm just a year in the job, and I have met Clara Chapaz on a number of occasions, and I just want to take a moment to reflect on her being such a wonderful champion for protecting young people online, and of course with the development of AI. And it's just lovely to be here with her again today, and of course my colleagues here on the panel. In Ireland, there's a lot of talk obviously about the simplification and the omnibus, but I have to say I am here with the Department of Enterprise officials who have been working at breakneck speed, it has to be said, to implement the EU AI Act in Ireland. And while there is a pause and a moment for reflection on how we do that we don't add more levels of bureaucracy, in Ireland we are continuing at breakneck speed to ensure that our citizens are protected. And I think when we're having this conversation, we need to push back on rhetoric from other continents about regulation being there that is going to be sort of focused on the killing of innovation and creativity. In Ireland, and I'm sure right across Europe, startups really see regulation as the gold standard, and they want that gold standard. And the regulation piece is to, I suppose, look at high risk and prohibitive practices. And as my colleagues have said, with the DSA and what we saw, the controversies over the last number of weeks, with GROC, aren't we so glad that we have standards and we have measures in place that can actually, ensure that prohibitive practices and high-risk AI tools aren't having that proliferation among our citizens and young people. So I suppose in a pragmatic way, we are obviously transposing the EU AI Act. We have established our National AI Office, and I just want to say a big thank you to the officials who are here somewhere in the department and here in the audience today, who have worked really incredibly hard to negotiate with existing regulators in Ireland, that we're not creating another layer of bureaucracy, that we're having a National AI Office, that those who are creating and innovating can go to it and have that sandbox, that software there, that they can innovate, but ensuring that, I suppose, with the AI Office, that it isn't another layer of bureaucracy. And I think they deserve great credit for that foresight and seeing that that is where we want to kind of step away from. And we have a lot of regulators already in Ireland who are quite capable of continuing that work, but having the expertise available to them around AI. And just to speak to another point that was raised here today about how we are going to, I suppose, really analyse and reflect on how it impacts on the job market. We're also developing our observatory, and we're doing that across government within the Department of Further Education and within my own Department of Enterprise to look how it is impacting on the labour market and how we mitigate against that by upskilling, by reskilling, but really trying to create an environment where startups and all the creative minds that are in this fabulous building can continue to do that and know that they're working within the guardrails, and that when their work is created and done, that they've got that gold standard of regulation that should be applauded.
Thank you. Aside from regulation, there is this challenge for Europe, which is helping the AI environment to thrive on European soil. French President Emmanuel Macron gave an interview this morning that quite resonates with our panel today, where he talks about the need to invest in an array of sectors, among them AI, and he said that if the EU doesn't act in the next 5 years, Europe will be, and I quote, swept away. I would like to know if you share this sentiment of urgency, and if you are convinced by some of the solutions that he talked about, which are a need for common debt and also a European preference in public procurements. So is that some solutions that convince you? Maybe start with you, Thomas Jarzombek, on this.
I absolutely share what he says about the urgency, and I think 5 years is even a long period. I think things are happening very, very fast. And when it comes to the question of common European debts, I mean, it's obvious what the German position on this is. And I agree on that too from my personal point, but nevertheless, what I already said, so we need more business perspective there. And not the governments will not be able to solve this. And when I look at all these large corporates in Europe, and especially also in France and in Germany, we see so huge companies, so wealthy family offices, and I think it's important that they invest and they go into, and that's what we are doing, what the German Digital Ministry, what Carsten Wildberger as our minister is doing. We are talking to these large corporates and to these family offices and say invest in AI. So that's absolutely crucial. And then we need to buy more European software. That's also obvious. So I think for us it's important and an aim to implement more Mistral. We have a platform in our government, and on this platform the Mistral models are the first ones you can use or can see, so they're number 1 in the list. And on the other side, I appreciate that Mistral is cooperating with Black Forest Labs as one of the champions from Germany in AI, and I think we need more on the business side in this kind of cooperation. And already spoke about Euraseo and Conergy and so, and further examples, and that's what we want to increase.
Nicodemos, Damianou, is it something you want to add on?
Yes, it is actually. And I think the name of the game is speed. So Europe has, I said it earlier, Europe has changed gears, has changed the way it's proceeding and viewing things. And there is a lot going on in building an EU AI industrial policy. If you look at the AI Continent Action Plan, the Apply AI Strategy, the AI Gigafactories Initiative, the single European data spaces, all of that comprises the components that we need to be building on to create the environment that will make it possible for investors to want to invest in Europe and so on. What is missing is speed in decision making and execution. And again, funding and investment doesn't come, and I fully agree that we need private investments. We haven't yet cracked the code of how are we going to fund this growth, but funding does not come in isolation. We need to build that ecosystem that builds this fundamental need to fund innovators, entrepreneurs, and startups. We need to make it more expensive for our entrepreneurs and our startups to look for funding elsewhere than otherwise. Now, in terms of how we do that, and your question on public procurement and so on, I think public procurement accounts for approximately 14% of EU GDP. So that's one tool, but it cannot be the only tool. Maybe innovation procurement is one way. Now, we need more champions. We cannot build our approach around a single or a couple of champions. We need a more diverse ecosystem, and our SMEs are also important. It's not only about big tech companies. Our SMEs cannot wait. If they wait any longer, then they will become irrelevant. So in that respect, we need to push forward.
Smyth, is that how do you see this challenge of accelerating, and helping AI companies thrive in Europe?
Yeah, investment. And a big part of the conversation in Ireland is how we unlock capital to allow startups to find that investment. And it's wonderful here today. I saw the area up there where they're matchmaking companies with startups and asking that question about finance. So in Ireland, we are focused on all of those things too. And huge compliment to France and President Macron on your AI summit last year. I mean, he really focused, and that event really focused all of Europe's attention on the capabilities in a positive sense for AI, what it can do for business. So as my colleagues have said, it isn't just about the big tech companies. Within the Department of Enterprise in Ireland, we're incredibly focused on bringing our SMEs on that journey as well. We're providing some grants and supports to try and help them do that, because there is a risk that we do create a divide and that, smaller companies aren't on the journey as well. And I think that's really important. Also, the Senior Minister, Minister Peter Burke in my department, launched a plan around competitiveness and really focused in on how do we give ourselves that competitive edge. Of course, the Draghi report has helped sharpen everybody's focus on that too. So I think it's kind of, all of those, unlocking the capital, unlocking finance, ensuring that we have supports and finance and grants in place for the SME sector, because I think it'll have to take that, whole entire enterprise ecosystem working together and making sure that we don't leave anybody behind.
Thank you. And Hénanff, I know you're a defender of European preference in public procurements, and do you believe there is a way to move forward in this direction, even if other European countries are not as convinced as France?
Sometimes we have to show the way, and France expect to show the way, and we are not alone. Germany, we spoke a lot with Germany and other countries in Europe about the European preference. But the key is, in fact, the funding, how to have money, investment. It's the key, because our competitors have huge phenomenal amounts to invest in China or in the States. So we have to find these fundings for our AI startup or SMEs or companies. So first, fundings. Secondly, foreign investment also. And when the President Macron announced 109 billion euros last year, it was also to attract foreign investors, because it's not it's not opposite to European or French investment. And also we have to invite to be independent in infrastructures and data centers. It's what we do. We have done since 1 year, and to measure our dependencies, technological dependencies, to reduce it. And of course, also in Europe, I'm really convinced we have to choose European technological solution in priority. And we discussed with our friends in Germany, but also with the others. And I'm sure we will succeed in this way, because we don't have the choice, in fact.
Thank you. Of course, we are in France, and France really believes in some of its champions in AI. Of course, we think about Mistral. Do you think that European countries can rally around one company, one solution, with the bet that it can challenge American companies and, let's say, be beneficial to the whole continent? Maybe Smyth, if that's something you...
Well, back to your question about European AI tools, I think that, there has got to be a sharp focus on that and investment in it. Mistral, I see them here today, and I'm looking forward to hopefully meeting them later in the afternoon. But I do think we have to support our own. Ireland's a small, open economy, and we obviously have a lot of the tech companies in Ireland, which have been hugely, I suppose, beneficial to the country itself. But as I said, we are focused on ensuring that any of the European AI tools, do they get preferential treatment? We want to support them to ensure that they grow and scale and develop right across Europe, because I think that gives us greater independence in terms of the development of technology ourselves.
Okay, thank you. Nicodemos, Damianou, is that something you want to?
Yes. Of course, Mistral is a great case that we need to build on. As I said before, we need a diverse ecosystem. Right now, we're facing a balanced discussion between strategic autonomy, technological sovereignty on one end, which for us does not mean isolation, cannot mean isolation, and we're talking about foreign investments as well. And on the other hand, the technological and economic urgency. So there needs to be a balance there. We need to find a way to support the creation of a diverse ecosystem that builds a number of these champions, but also at the same time helps SMEs, as I said before, adopt AI, because that's the way to build AI literacy, to build traction in the ecosystem, underpinned by the startup and scale-up strategy, the European Innovation Act that we will be discussing during our presidency. And all of that will help build this ecosystem that will attract investment. We've all been discussing about funding and investments, but we need to make sure that we have the right ecosystem to attract this sort of investment. So I think Mistral and are a champion, a European champion. They're a very good example that we need to follow, but we need to do more.
Thank you. You talked about adoption yesterday, and Hénanff, you presented a few figures on adoption by French users of AI, which said that more than 60% of AI users in France use ChatGPT, and less than 6% use le chat from Mistral. Is boosting adoption making us more dependent on American solutions that are the one dominating the market at the moment?
It's very, very important. We encourage the diffusion of AI in the society, in the global societies, SMEs, of course. It's an objective in Europe, in the G7 also, but also with citizens, near citizens. So we had a national plan 1 year ago, which is called Osélia. It's a plan to invite SMEs to implement IA in their business. But effectively, a recent study shows that France is the 5th country in terms of share of the population using AI, but it's not enough fast. We nominated 1,600 ambassadors also to everywhere in France. We aim to train 15 million professionals also by 2030. But what we see everywhere in Europe, the diffusion of AI is not as fast as we expect. So we have to invest, we have to train, and to speak much more about AI near the population of the SMEs association, and also local actors.
Thank you. Thomas Jarzombek, do you believe that we can push or encourage European companies to rely on European solutions, if not the governments?
I think that's the real question. I mean, in the end, we can do as governments more procurement on European companies, and I totally push for more European procurement. I'm responsible right now for a project where we are bringing together, we have 300 participants right now for bringing AI solutions from startups, from European startups to municipalities. So we're doing a lot of building the government more as an anchor customer. But in the end, we have to think this together with the industry. It doesn't help if only the government buys European solutions. And the private sector, the companies and the individuals, they don't use it. And so that's the thing. But right now, at this point today, I believe, so the race that's upcoming is the race of solutions. And the market is completely open. So when you see the possibilities of vibe coding, so last weekend, together with my son, he's 11 years old, we created a new Super Mario game with vibe coding. And it's fascinating to see that, also to see the kids. They're excited and they say, we want to change the sound and we want to have an end boss and this has to be a more cruel end boss. Daddy, do something. And so we said to this AI machine, build a more cruel end boss, and he did. Yeah? And so this is playing around with these toys, but in the end, we will see that not only programmers will be obsolete, we will see this in a lot of branches. And who is creating these companies? And the game is on the market right now, and I think models are agnostic. And if you have agents and solutions, and then maybe you can choose between the Mistral model or the Claude model or whatever. And I think this is the game starting right now, and we have to be there on point.
Smyth, with the growing tensions between the EU and the United States, do you believe that Europe needs to find new partners, new alliances with other countries to attract investments, but also find clients for European companies?
Yes, is the straight answer. I think we're in very uncharted waters geopolitically. You know, Ireland as probably the States' nearest neighbour here in Europe and on the edge of Europe, but very European, obviously. We have a challenge in the sense that that collaboration within the European Union, I think it has sharpened and sort of galvanised support among European countries, but we do need to look to other and new markets. And again, within the Department of Enterprise, we have launched a new plan. We've launched a lot of new plans over the last 12 months to try and, I suppose, stay on top of the new geopolitical environment we find ourselves in. And that plan is about market diversification, which is to your point and your question. So the answer is yes, I do think we need to be looking to new markets. I do think we need to be doubling down on existing ones right across Europe and finding ourselves new friends.
Thank you. And Hénanff, I believe this will be one of the challenges of next week's summit in India, finding new partners and alliances.
Yes, going in India is very important because you know the link between India and France. They were very present last year in the summit, in the Paris summit. So we are very, very happy, and it's very important to share with Indian the way we imagine AI for Europe, but also for other countries. And India is very interesting in the way we see and we want to develop AI in Europe. That means transparency, ethical values, and also human in the center of our AI. So we will share that and support this in India next week, but also it's the occasion because the President Macron wants to have a side event about the minor majority, digital majority. So we will have a side event also in New Delhi on this subject with other European countries present, but also Indian that are very interested to discuss with France because we are very well advanced. We have voted in the National Assembly this text. Next step is the Senate. So it's not finished, of course, but I think other countries also would be interested to speak with us about the digital majority in India next week.
Thank you. Nicodemos, Damianou, do you believe that there is this word that we have in French, which is de-risking, limiting risks with dependencies on other countries? Is it something that you believe in the new geopolitical environment should be the priority for next 5 years, but also 10 years or 20.
Thank you. First, let me say that I understand that Thomas's son has already chosen a career, which is good. I tried to convince my daughters to go down that path, but I couldn't. An autonomous union open to the world is the motto of our presidency for these 6 months. So we truly believe that whatever we discussed cannot be done in isolation. It needs to be done with our like-minded partners. And we are also happy to see that the AI summit that happened last year in February here in Paris is now happening in India. It was mentioned before. It's hugely important to tap onto these partnerships in order to build the new ecosystem. But as I'm going back to the way we started this discussion, as long as we maintain our principles and beliefs as Europeans of trust, responsible AI, because it's clear that this path, this new intelligence age is gonna go there, and we need to make sure that we follow that path. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you, a big thank you to our panelists for joining this discussion. I'll let the floor